Tony Stark was a young genius in the field of engineering. After inheriting his late father's company, Stark would become a world-famous weapons engineer. Upon a demonstration in Vietnam, Tony was captured by terrorists and forced to build them a nuke. Little did they know, he instead crafted a highly armoured and weaponized suit which allowed him to escape his captivity. Upon returning home, Tony had a new perspective and outlook on life. No longer interested in making weapons for profit, Tony used his wealth to craft a vast array of highly advanced suits, the sole purpose for which he used to save innocent lives. He would eventually attract the attention of Nick Fury, the director of the worldwide security organization known as S.H.I.E.L.D. Reluctantly recruited into the Avengers Initiative, Stark became a world-founding member of a group consisting of Earth's mightiest heroes, known as the Avengers. Over the course of several years, Stark would partake in several battles, saving the world many times over, and even combating his old allies. After experiencing their first true defeat at the hands of the mad titan Thanos, Tony spent the next 5 years in retirement, raising a daughter with the woman he loved. He would reluctantly come out of retirement to aid in a last-ditch attempt to fix the past and destroy Thanos. After everyone was brought back into existence, the heroes would engage Thanos and his forces in one final epic battle. In the ensuing chaos, Tony would find himself face to face with the Mad Titan. Knowing he could not allow this monster to succeed again, Tony sacrificed his life to end the threat that Thanos posed upon the universe. Now finally able to rest, Tony's memory would live on through the lives of those he saved and those he loved. Upon the desert planet of Tatooine, a young slave woman named Shmi Skywalker gave birth to a miracle, a child with no father. She named him Anakin Skywalker. When he was only 9 years old, Anakin was discovered by the Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn. Believing Anakin to be the chosen one of prophecy, and destined to bring balance to the Force, Qui-Gon freed Anakin from slavery, and brought him back to the Jedi Temple for assessment. Unfortunately, Qui-Gon was eventually killed by the Sith assassin Darth Maul. After Maul's defeat at the hands of Jinn's apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Jedi Council granted him permission to train Anakin. Over the course of his life, Anakin grew up to be a prodigy, but he was often held back by his arrogance and constant struggles to let go of the ones he loved. He would eventually become a general amidst the outbreak of the Clone Wars, and spent the next 3 years participating in many grueling battles. Though a renowned Jedi and accomplished general, Anakin's loyalty to the Order was shaken several times. Eventually, his mistrust caught the attention of the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious. Manipulating the young man to his side, Sidious converted Anakin into a Sith Lord and had him all but exterminate the Jedi Order, but not before he suffered a near-death defeat at the hands of his former mentor. After being saved and rebuilt, Lord Vader spent the next 20 years serving as the newly anointed Emperor's top enforcer. It wasn't until 4 years after the Battle of Yavin that Vader's own son, Luke Skywalker, was able to bring him back to the light, whilst also rejecting the dark that consumed his father. As the Emperor lashed out in anger at the young Jedi, Anakin threw his master into the second Death Star's reactor, ending his life and fulfilling his destiny. Passing on the Skywalker mantle and becoming one with the Force, Anakin lived on as a Force spirit, though not without leaving a scar upon the galaxy. For this video, I will be examining Iron Man as he appears within the Captain America Civil War movie, as well as the Mark 46 armor which appears within the same movie. For Darth Vader, I will be examining him during the events of Return of the Jedi, combining non-conflicting source material from both current canon and the expanded universe material. Any images or footage of these characters from other source material is used for the sake of enhancing the visuals. Now on with the video.
Round 1.
As Tony Stark possessed no superpowers or enhancements of his own, most of his physical accomplishments came from his suits. It is worth noting that the strength of the suits may vary, however, they all possessed great power. Some examples of the strength Tony's suits can provide include knocking people away by several feet, kicking back a car weighing over 2 tons, catching a thrown car with low power capacity, kicking Thor through a tree, and much more. As the Mark 46 was more advanced than the previous suits that demonstrated these abilities, it is reasonable to assume that such feats could be accomplished too, as it was already shown to be capable of easily standing up to superhuman opponents, such as Captain America and the Winter Soldier. But the suits can enhance more than simply strength. Stark could achieve incredible speed through flight, even breaking the sound barrier, which he could use in battle to apply extra damage. Of course, speed through flight does not equate to reflexes. Though in Iron Man's case, this didn't seem to matter. Tony has been able to dodge missiles with a simple pivot, and could even outmatch the reflexes of Captain America in the Mark 46 when he deployed a countermeasure to Steve's fighting style, although this did require him to analyse Roger's fight pattern. But most impressively, the Iron Man suits provide Tony with remarkable durability. Tony has been shot out of the sky by a missile fired from a tank and suffered little damage to his suit, and has even withstood being hit by Thor's hammer and suffered little damage as well. Granted, these demonstrations were from previous suits to the Mark 46, but as with his strength, it is reasonable to presume that such feats could be replicated or similar accomplishments could be achieved in the more advanced Mark 46. Even if not, the Mark 46 itself has been buried underneath a huge pileup of cars and come out with a few scratches and dents. In addition, it could trade blows with superhuman opponents and withstand explosions of varying strength. With all of that said, Tony Stark manufactured himself into a tank of incredible power.
Please tell me nobody kissed me. I did.
After his defeat on Mustafar, Darth Vader was left more machine than man. However, this became nothing but a boon to his physical traits. Thanks to his suit and armor, his strength, durability and endurance were boosted to incredible levels. Without the aid of the Force, Vader could casually break bones with his bare hands and throw full-grown humanoids incredible distances. When boosted by his connection to the dark side, he could overpower opposing Force users, sometimes with a single arm, and even rip a giant metal door off its hinges. Despite the weight of his armor hampering his agility, his reflexes remain impeccable, allowing him to deflect tons of incoming blaster fire, as well as keep pace with opponents more agile than himself, such as his former apprentice, Ahsoka. He could also cover great distances with powerful force dashes and power leaps. Furthermore, his endurance and durability were ridiculous. Thanks to his respirator, his oxygen intake and thus his stamina were nigh limitless. Thanks to the armor built into his suit, he could easily withstand great blunt force trauma, withstand blaster bolts, he could survive being engulfed by fire, and he could even withstand lightsaber strikes. To briefly cover, it has often been believed that Vader's suit was vulnerable to electrical discharges, such as Force lightning. However, this is only really an issue in situations where the potency of said discharge was extremely high. Just after being repaired, he withstood Force lightning from Sidious and stood up, seemingly without any major difficulty, although I suspect his master wasn't unleashing his full power on his apprentice. Despite any weakness his new body may have brought upon him, Vader adapted and turned his cybernetics into nothing but a boon, and thus he became a living, breathing tank, a formidable warrior indeed.
How did my father die? Well, that's a story. He went batshit after his mom died, killed a co-worker, wiped out a bunch of kids and even tried to kill me. Anyway, I left him for dead on a lava planet. Did I mention he's not dead? Goes by the name Vader, likes black clothing.
Both combatants have proven themselves hardy and strong, but I do think there is an advantage to be awarded here. It is quite clear that Iron Man possesses the greater degree of agility and maneuverability. However, Vader has contended with opponents who boast such an advantage before, and thus I believe he would be able to cope. After that, they appear to have similar degrees of strength as shown in their respective achievements. What I feel decides the edge here is their respective levels of endurance. Both have proven themselves to be incredibly durable. Despite this, Vader has shown superior degrees of pain tolerance throughout his career. Many people are unaware that Vader is in constant agony, even outside of combat, courtesy of his old injuries. Yet he has grown to overcome such pain, and this is something that provides him with an extra level of endurance. Furthermore, Vader's force augmentation allows him to bolster his strength and endurance further, a feat that Stark is incapable of replicating. Darth Vader is awarded the advantage in physicality, thanks to his raw might and constitution.
Round 2.
Tony Stark was a man of brains instead of brawn. His greatest weapon was his mind, and thus many of his greatest victories came by way of his genius-level intellect. Having been a long-standing member of the Avengers, Tony possessed great combat experience and could influence the outcome of many battles. Although he would often prepare for many battles, Stark could easily think on his feet and come up with plans and strategies in the midst of combat. He was often fond of assessing his opponents and applying appropriate countermeasures, which he could apply to virtually any situation. For example, Tony has used the AI of his suit to analyze Captain America's fighting patterns, so that he could apply the appropriate counterattacks. Despite me saying that he is a man of brains over brawn, Tony has shown great skill at using his suit to perform various attacks on his opposition, by performing various aerial maneuvers and well-timed integration of his suit's weaponry, or by leading his adversaries on wild goose chases, catching them off guard and taking advantage of their arrogance, or by simply taking advantage of any other opportunities that could grant him anything from a momentary advantage to a few vital seconds, allowing him to rally and get himself back in the fight. Having held his own against the likes of Thor, Captain America and the Winter Soldier, the Incredible Hulk and Ultron, Tony has proven that he is a very effective combatant that should not be underestimated.
I looked forward in time. I saw 14,605 futures. In how many did I survive the endgame? None.
Darth Vader was regarded as the greatest enforcer of Palpatine's galactic empire, and a military genius. Having hunted down and bested several Jedi throughout his career, Vader's reputation as one of the greatest Jedi killers of all time was well earned. Vader developed his unique fighting style with the idea of protecting his chest panel from damage in battle. Already known as a master of both variants in Form 5 lightsaber combat as a Jedi, Vader's skills in Xi'an and Gemso were carried over into his skill set as a Sith. Form 5 was developed as the answer to Form 3's lack of offense, which focused on immediate counterattacks. The Xi'an variant was designed for use against blaster-wielding opponents, but instead would aim the bolts back at the shooter, instead of harmlessly batting them aside like Sarisu. The Gemso variant was designed for lightsaber combat and held many properties of Xi'an, but with a heavy focus on the use of one's strength in battle, though this did lead to the style lacking in maneuverability. To compensate for this, Anakin Skywalker developed the high proficiency in the acrobatic form Ataru. However, as a Sith, Vader's ability to apply this level of agility was reduced. Despite this, he became more refined as a result, and in some instances, arguably a deadlier lightsaber combatant overall. He has been noted as incorporating the bladework of Makashi, Ataru, and Sarisu into his bladework, the Makashi style greatly influencing his bladework, allowing Vader to greatly refine his style and incorporate his cybernetic strength into such a linear form. Although Vader could be bested by more agile opponents, such opportunities were uncommon, and the cybernetic Sith could easily slip into a tightly knitted defense whenever required. In addition, Vader has been shown making use of well-timed grapples and other hand-to-hand techniques in battle to off-throw his opponents, and disrupt their focus through Dun Mok, and even incorporate the use of his force powers into his attack sequences. Despite the flaws attributed to him by the limitations of his suit, Darth Vader showed that he could adapt well and turn his new body into an advantage, and was capable of hunting down and besting even the most renowned of Jedi.
It's over, father. I have the high ground. I'm not falling for that again.
While I am of the opinion that Tony Stark does possess the higher IQ in this battle, and certainly has enough experience combating a wide array of powerful and unusual opponents, Vader has advantages that help close the gap. While he may not possess Tony's IQ level, he was known as a combative genius during his days as both a Jedi and a Sith. In addition, Vader possesses a superior degree of martial training. To be fair to Stark, he does make excellent use of his suits, and definitely puts them to the most effective uses possible. But Vader has fought opponents who use similar abilities and tactics in the past, while Vader is unlike the majority of opponents that Tony has faced. In layman's terms, many of Stark's victories come from his ability to outthink and outsmart his opponents, whereas Vader's victories stem from not only his ability to outsmart them, but also outfight them outright. Courtesy of his skill and experience, Darth Vader is awarded the advantage in combative skill.
Round 3.
Tony Stark's extensive knowledge of technology and years of developing his suits awarded him with some of the most powerful weaponry in the Marvel Universe. The suit we are using from the Civil War movie was classified as the Mark 46. It featured many properties of previous suits that would also be included into later designs. These include things such as flight, a targeting system that allowed for greater precision against targets, an onboard AI system that Stark could communicate with to help provide tactics, suit feedback, thermal scanners, and of course, his signature repulsors. Fired from the palms of each hand, the repulsors released high-powered charges of energy that were capable of dealing great damage to a target, their intensity also being altered to simply knock targets back or cause significantly higher effects. In addition, a third and more powerful beam could be unleashed from the suit's center core, known as the Uni-beam. This attack held even higher potency than the ordinary repulsors, as was shown when it completely disintegrated the Winter Soldier's mechanical arm. Among these features, Stark's suit housed rockets that have been powerful enough to destroy things such as tanks and nuclear blast doors. Furthermore, he could make use of an EMP, a magnetic disruptor, to off-throw his opponents. Adding to his lethality, the suit could also fire lasers, having been carried over from the Mark 6, and he could also unleash a powerful clamp projectile to temporarily immobilize a target. He could also briefly blind an enemy or stun them with a bright flashlight attack or sonic pulse projected from his right hand. Lastly, what was arguably the most dangerous feature of the Mark 46 was its ability to analyze and swiftly counter an enemy's fighting style, allowing Iron Man to defeat an otherwise superior hand-to-hand combatant. Overall, Tony Stark's suits provided him with a wide assortment of tools that made him equipped to deal with virtually any situation. During his time as a Sith Lord, Darth Vader wielded a single-bladed standard lightsaber, bearing a similar design to his original Jedi lightsabers, with a noticeably larger hilt to accommodate his large cybernetic hands. Beyond its basic design, the weapon's most notable function was that of a dual-phase feature, allowing Vader to switch the blade length between the standard length and a length that was roughly 1.5 times that of the standard, all of which could be activated at the simple flick of a switch on the hilt. His suit also possessed internal sensors and was able to filter out things such as smoke and toxins, granting him a greater sense of awareness and survivability respectively. In regards to his command of the Force, Darth Vader was also known to be the most powerful apprentice to Darth Sidious, and despite losing a significant degree of his potential after losing so much of his living tissue, Vader remained immensely powerful. Although the nature of his suit did prevent him from using Force lightning, he could make use of devastating telekinetic attacks, capable of thrashing large groups of enemies with massive force waves, halting an AT-AT walker in its tracks and proceeding to rip it apart, and he could of course easily overpower the vast majority of Force users. Vader's use of telekinesis was also extremely refined, allowing him to hurl objects at his opponents without needing to face the object, nor make use of hand gestures. In addition, he could make use of the abilities known as Force Choke and Force Wound to greatly cripple his enemies. Amongst these offensive talents, Vader was well versed in his ability to defend against such attacks. He has shown himself capable of putting up powerful force shields to protect himself from explosions, fire, and attacks from opposing force wielders. In addition, he could make use of force deflection, also known as tutor minis, which allowed him to defend against things such as blaster bolts and fire, though the ability to defend against force lightning was beyond his ability. Despite having lost a great deal of his true potential, Darth Vader proved that he was still an extraordinarily powerful master of the dark side, one who has gone down in galactic history as one of the Sith's greatest. Powers versus technology is always interesting to compare. For this section, I decided to break it down piece by piece. In Iron Man's favour, he does have a few things that can provide him with an advantage, these being his EMP and extreme firepower. The EMP could be used to temporarily disable the Sith Lord's suit, whereas something like the Unibeam provides extreme destructive power. However, the things that Vader brings to the table grant him offensive and defensive answers for Tony's abilities. Vader has been known to use his Force Rage to sustain himself whilst his suit is disabled, and his use of Force Deflection will be useful for defending against Stark's repulsors. Tony's only defense against Vader's powerful use of devastating telekinesis is evasion, and that's if Vader doesn't use it against him directly. While it is true that Iron Man can use his suit to analyze a foe's fighting pattern for countermeasures, Vader's styles are completely alien to those that either Tony or his AI would be familiar with. Even if they could be countered, Vader, like all Force sensitives, has an advanced ability in Force precognition, which aids on defending against an opponent's counters. In addition, the lightsaber is a deadly weapon in close quarters, one that Stark dare not risk coming into direct contact with. This is not to say that Iron Man's abilities will be useless, far from it. However, the Sith Lord is simply more well-rounded. Courtesy of his superior ability to attack and defend, Darth Vader is awarded the advantage for his arsenal.
Final round.
Analysing and comparing these characters was a fun experience. While I may have given every advantage to only one, I still think it would be an interesting battle nonetheless. With all that said, the final tally is an 8 out of 10 advantage to the victor. In my head, I actually envision this as a more action-packed version of Obi-Wan Kenobi's fight with Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones, while the climax more closely resembles Stark's one-on-one with Thanos in Infinity War, with Vader standing in for Kenobi and Thanos, and Tony taking the place of Jango Fett and later himself. Upon entering the battle, Tony would attempt to assess and determine Vader's weaknesses. Although given his headstrong demeanour, he would likely be the instigator in this conflict and charge in, unleashing a rapid flurry of powerful blasts in the Sith Lord's direction, whilst also making sure to keep himself out of range from Vader's lightsaber. Vader would maintain firm footing and positioning, weathering the storm, and calmly defend against each sequential attack, blocking Tony's repulsions with his lightsaber or through the use of Force deflection. Once Tony notices that this won't be enough, he'll attempt to rid Vader of his weapon. He may attempt to get in close and employ massive damage with the Unibeam, or try to disable Vader's suit through the use of the EMP. In either case, however, he would not anticipate Vader's ability to sustain himself through his intense connection to the dark side. Eventually, Vader would exploit the potency of his power, either hurling the nearby surroundings or by hammering him with powerful telekinetic waves. After an arduous affair of being worn down, Stark would eventually find himself within Vader's metaphysical grip. As an invisible hand tightens around his throat, the last thing he sees before his life fades away is the imposing shadow of the Sith Lord looming over him. Impressed by his opponent's abilities, but otherwise successful in his conquest, Darth Vader is declared the victor of this matchup. Alright, that was Iron Man vs Darth Vader. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, as it was a lot of fun to make. These characters are both badasses, and both are a worthy opponent for the other. I do have one more matchup for Vader, but then I promise to give him a break afterwards, and I'll make more of an effort to bring some new faces to the Versus series. Well, that's enough out of me for today, guys. So until next time, be sure to follow me on Twitter to keep up to date. And like always, have a great day.